I think we can talk about the effect of Jimmy Dore's argumentative style on this discourse.
Well, it's not an argumentative style.
Okay.
I don't mind his style. I think that when you put out and make the argument over and over again that she's a sellout and they're a fraud, I think that does damage.
We can, and we should talk about that. But that's different than making an argument for why force the vote is good or bad.
And if you ask me why I didn't support it, that's why. Because I didn't want to associate myself with
pause right here. Game, set, match. You just said you're not engaging on the idea. What the fuck? You just gave your idea away. You want to know? You want to know what you just did, Sam Seder? You just gave your fucking point away. You just gave away your hand. You said, I don't like Jimmy Dore. I don't care about strategy. I just care about my feelings. I just care. You know what I care about? The fucking millions of people who don't have adequate health care in this country.
Yep. You can tell it's so obvious that Sam Seder just cannot admit that Jimmy Dore could possibly be right about something. And because of, like I said, the fact that he's made a literal industry off of tarring and feathering Jimmy Dore and his opinions, now he has to, do the same to this idea, this movement.
Dumb. It's so dumb. It pisses me off. Do you know how many people I disagree with on so many fucking things that I don't mind being like, yeah, we literally just had Spike Cohen on our fucking show. Do you know how many fucking things we disagree with? Like, you know how, you can comment and be like, oh yeah, I can't believe you guys, like, of course we disagreed with him about that. Like, of course we did. But you can have a conversation with somebody about like something else that you do agree with and and just like argue it on the basis of what you're actually talking about and not like, well, actually 16 months ago on a rainy Thursday, this dude, stuck his finger in, what the fuck do you care? His idea was like, I don't know. It's so petulant. It's so childish. And it's why the left can't get anything done. It's horse shit. Yeah. Anyway, we can keep listening though. Cause hate listen.
That's honest. You're not saying that you actually think that force the vote was an ineffective strategy or a bad idea. You didn't like that it was associated with Jimmy Dore.
I thought, like I've said this 3 times on this, and I thought it was a middling idea. When I found out that they were leveraging other stuff that I thought had more material benefit and not
okay, pause this.
More material benefit.
Pause this.
At least for
you and I have a disagreement. I believe that exempting PAYGO.
They didn't exempt PAYGO.
Excuse me. At a time where we desperately need funding, we need expansion on all sorts of things, ranging from expanded unemployment insurance. We need checks.
Automatically too, just carrying water for the Democratic Party, adopting their language, adopting their excuses, basically just doing what the media does, the mainstream media, and being a stenographer to the Democratic Party powerful elite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it reminds me of, and everybody should check this out, but it's true because it kind of goes back to a point that Noam Chomsky was making on Chris Hedges. I think it's from the On Contact episode from last night, if you actually watched it on RT, but it's also on their YouTube channel now. And he was talking about how, Chris Hedges was essentially asking him, what role, like, the MSNBC Fox News model, and also, the Facebook, Twitter news model have basically been doing as a way of like bifurcating the news, essentially dividing the news into like a left news and a right news. And Noam Chomsky pointed out that that's been going on for decades, all through talk radio, which is essentially what Sam Seder does, right? So he is just regressing into basically peddling the narrative in NPR style. If Obama's in office, then Obama style politics are what's correct. Before that, it was whatever George Bush isn't doing. Obviously, over the past couple of years, it's been this resistance Democrat.
And again, we have the executive now. We have Senate and Congress. There's no reason why we can't have these nice things. There's no reason why these ideas are out of the realm of possibility when the rest of the developed world has them. And we're in a pandemic, an unprecedented moment, which literally there's a clause in Obamacare allowing, Medicare for all to basically be granted to the entire populations of an affected community. We've been over this. It's possible for the executive to do this. There's no reason why we can't be pressuring our government to make nice things happen, or not even nice things, basic human right things. So pretty standard stuff. And it's pretty disappointing to see Sam again, just carrying the water for it.
In this still frame, it looks like he's about to go like ham on like a really big Long John donut. Like it's got like a filling in it with like Bavarian cream, and he's ready. He's like, oh shit. I can't wait to eat this donut. But anyway.
all of that. I think that was a valuable get.
It was valuable, but it wasn't a get.
Huh?
It was valuable, but it wasn't a get. You have no knowledge if their failure to force the vote resulted in getting those things, if those things were already planned concessions or not. Moreover,
I'm in on the donut SLV revolution. I'm in the joke that I was making. He was about to devour the donut. We saved him on a still frame where he looked like, anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
Watch him puff up like a peacock here, though. It's funny.
Getting those things, if those things were already.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
If their failure to force the vote resulted in getting those things, if those things were already planned concessions,
he's very expressive, like a pet animal, like like a dog or like a bird. You know what I mean? Like
he looks like an ostrich, dude.
Entirely. So if we're talking about the material,
I don't know. Sorry, not to immediately jump to ad hominem attacks. We already picked apart his argument, so there's not much left to do.
Okay, but neither one of us knows how much you could have leveraged at this point.
Well, here's
you want to argue that you think that their negotiations, that their ask wasn't big enough. Fine, I don't have a big.
That is what I'm arguing.
But as to why I wanted to distance myself as fast as I could, because I'm not going to be part of a project that disempowers for what I think is a highly speculative tactic that I think is dubious, frankly. But again, I was perfectly willing to just let 1,000 flowers bloom. Like you said, there was no strategy on my part to go like, I'm going to support this so that Bree signs on to it, for instance, and then I'm going to pull the rug out. No, it was and to say that Jimmy's not associated with Force the Vote.
I didn't say that Jimmy's not associated with Force the Vote.
To say that he wasn't the biggest advocate or the person most close associated.
Yeah, what is he talking about?
That is why when he started to use it as a leverage to disempower the progressives in Congress.
Oh yeah, they're so disempowered. It's not like they're literal Congress people.
They've been disempowering themselves.
Jimmy Dore could literally Jimmy Dore could go on Tucker Carlson every day or do whatever the fuck these fucking liberals are going to chastise him for, and it wouldn't disempower the squad at all. They're still elected officials. They have healthcare. They're making a good ass salary, and they're going to get reelected again, just like they just were in sweeping fashion. All the squad members were reelected easily, no problem. These people are fine. They're literal professional elites. Like they're doing okay. They're not going to be disempowered by some fucking comedian on YouTube who's trying to get people Medicare for all with his, platform.
It's not like her approval rating took a fat hit after Force the Vote.
No. And I forget if it's in this video or another video, but he tries to, make the argument that, well, if they lose this battle, it's going to be so embarrassing to them and their credentials and credibility that it's actually worse for the progressive movement than it is for Pelosi. Which again is absolute horseshit. Even if they lose this battle, like we've talked about so many times, even if they lose this battle, they still win this battle because they're more popular than Nancy Pelosi, who has like a 20% approval rating, by the way. They're the young freshman generation class of sophomores, some of them, class of Congress people. They represent, the actual base of the Democratic Party. They're not going to lose this fight. If anything, they're going to be seen as, heroes for waging it to begin with.
100%. Darby, do you want to keep playing this video? Because I feel like, dude, I want to, well, we can talk a little bit more while we have it paused. Look, I don't know Sam Seder's content like that. Where is his show? Like, he's on the actual radio, right?
I think so. Maybe. I think it's like Majority FM or some shit. I don't listen to the radio. I don't really know. But
yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering how he got his platform or whatever. But yeah, he definitely just seems very like, and I'm not familiar with a ton of his work. I've seen a lot of Michael Brooks clips where Michael Brooks was like in the studio, but it was always like just Michael in that studio. Like,
I think they worked out of the same space. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because sometimes Michael Brooks back in the day would look like that, and then obviously after COVID they went into doing it differently, and then they also did it from that weird desk for a while. But anyway, okay, he's been on YouTube for like 10 years. Yeah, so he's I guess just built it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not like super enthralled by the guy. I'm not in love with his takes from anything that I've seen from him. But I also don't feel like I have a huge sample to draw from. So I'm just like all my criticism of this guy is basically coming from this video. So
Okay,
maybe
that's
he's
fair.
been cool in the past, just to give him that
Well-
little caveat. But I mean, this seems like horseshit to me.
I mean, it's one of those tough things, kind of like when we did the roast of Vosh. It's like, I mean, if you take that person in comparison to just your average, person on the political spectrum, we'll probably have a lot more in common with someone like Sam Seder than maybe your average Democrat, liberal, or Republican or whatever. So it's certainly he has said good things and he's advocated for the right policies a lot of the times. I think he was in favor of Bernie, for example, but he kind of also is more of I would say, a centristy kind of progressive in the sense that he's not really ever down to get behind ideas like force the vote, really, revolutionary movements, third party movements, stuff like that. He kind of is, safe in his recording studio, going where the winds blow, financially. If Bernie's ascendant, then we're going to do that. If Biden's ascendant, then
He seems like he could have been happy with Elizabeth Warren.
Oh yeah, easily. 100%. 100%.
Like a jank, almost, he kind of gives me a jank vibe. I don't know, like as far as his politics go, like a dude that really wants to call himself a progressive, but isn't there when it like matters.
Yeah, and that's another thing that annoys me about this. It's like, what have you ever accomplished on your show, Sam? Because you can talk all the shit you want on Jimmy Dore, and there's lots of valid criticisms of him and the way he's conducted himself both in public and in private. I've seen examples of screenshots of him looking like an absolute dick. I'm not going to, stand up for everything he's ever said, but at least he, accomplished something with his force the vote thing. At least he coalesced a movement, got together got the energy behind the fight for Medicare for all kind of reignited for a while. He really did bring some fire to the people that are elected that, have some power. And like Sam Seder just really, what are you doing? You're just pontificating on fucking YouTube and, calling out Jimmy Dore. No doubt about it. But I don't know, man. Obviously people are more than free to come after us too. But I don't know. We can finish out the rest of this clip if you want.
Yeah.
I decided I'm done.
So I'd like to address that point, if I may. I don't believe that Jimmy is trying to disempower the progressives in Congress. What I believe Jimmy is doing, whether or not you agree with him or the tactic he's using, is trying to use his platform to pressure the elected officials, the progressives that we have worked so hard and have this unprecedented number, to your point, in Congress, to do the thing that we want them to do, which is to use power when it falls in their lap. Now, in this instance, we didn't need to get a majority of progressives in Congress to enact the plan. That was the whole spark and magic of it. That with a very small number of people.
Well, let's take that first premise that you made, the assertion that you don't think Jimmy's agenda is to disempower progressives.
I'm sorry. Which way is this going to go? I feel like I'm in the middle of a point. I feel like I've been letting you.
Okay, good.
If I could just finish this point. I have like a whole notepad of notes that I'm trying to catch up on from the various issues that you brought up that I think are important to address. Jimmy's perspective, I don't want to speak for him, but it seems obvious to me what he's doing is to be the farthest, angriest version of the left.
Tangible,
like pressure on progressives to do what they said they were going to do when they ran for office. One of those, AOC in particular, since she's come under focus, said that she wanted to oust Pelosi. She complained just this past January, a year ago now, that it was regrettable that the Democratic Party was so moderate, so to the right, that we couldn't even get a floor vote on Medicare.
She also at one point said that it's a shame that Joe Biden is even in the same party as her, and that it's crazy that in this country our system works that way. So yeah, it's not exactly this massive like leap of logic that someone like AOC, that has defined herself by opposing her politics to that of the Democratic mainstream, would then go out and vote against the person who is literally personifies the corruption and the neoliberalism that has come to define the Democratic Party. It's not like it's that crazy. This strategy was, and despite the fact that it was proposed by Jimmy Dore, it's just annoying, frankly. And I really, appreciate Briahna Joy Gray's clarity on this issue and just her ability to kind of, put it in simple terms and speak about this. Obviously, Jimmy Dore is just a comedian. Obviously, he's being angry and over the top. And that's what I've always said. I don't speak in the same terms that he does. I don't call the squad the fraud squad. I don't say that they're hacks and sellouts necessarily, but I'm not also going to wag my finger and chastise someone on the internet who's, using the language that he's using as a comedian, as a provocateur, as an agent of change, whatever you want to call it, to try to pressure these people to the left. Because honestly, what else is going to work if you're not calling them out, shaming them? Obviously, they're only going to keep getting progressively more and more corporate. At least that's what the trend has been. And that's what the observable behavior has been from politicians for pretty much all of time.
Yeah, exactly. Why are we becoming the tone police when we have a fucking real battle to fight? And I feel like this is all just it's just like this whole like insular high school style like clique war, like oh blah blah blah, like this person said this one time 6 months ago, and then I never talked to that person again. Sorry, they're canceled. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, we need votes, we need coalition, we need progress, because like the people who are actually struggling in these times, they don't have time for your petty bullshit. Okay, they need healthcare, they need checks, they need infrastructure.
And if you're not as frustrated with the Democratic Party as, the people that were screaming at the squad and screaming at the Democrats to try to do something for some movement on healthcare, especially as Joe Biden has now rescinded even his public option plan, which was, a garbage joke in the first place. If you don't understand the frustration of this movement, of these people, then like that frankly comes off as very privileged, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, 100%, right? Like, how could somebody yeah. Obviously, it's not like Jimmy Dore himself is, struggling, but, I think he's definitely trying to articulate the frustration and the real urgency that the people who are struggling, because he knows and remembers intimately what it is like to feel that urgency, because it's not like he was always a super successful comedian and everything. And when you do the kind of work that this kind of work is, you make no money before you make like enough money to pay your bills. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, I went from making literally negative money to like paying, you know what I mean? It's like you either have an audience or you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And at least, Jimmy Dore makes his money screaming at politicians to give us Medicare for all. Sam Seder is like, he has a, he voices a character on fucking Bob's Burgers. He was on MSNBC. This is
really?
Yeah,
this is all new to me. I don't know any of this.
Yeah, no, straight up. He used to be on MSNBC. Now he's a character, like not a frequent character, but like sometimes character on,
like a regular on the cast. I was like, I actually like Bob's Burgers.
No, I do too. I fucking loves Bob's Burgers, to be honest. But yeah, he plays one of like the food inspectors. Like it's a perfect role for him, to be honest. Anyway, my point is that he's just fucking pontificating in his recording studio and chastising someone who's actually screaming about getting people healthcare, about getting people human rights. And again, if you don't understand the need or the desire to be angry right now, then I just feel like that comes off as slightly privileged, comes off as slightly disconnected from the reality of what's going on in the ground right now in this fucking country.
Especially because everybody that I talk to who's actually like you and I, okay, like obviously Gavin and I don't make a lot of money. We make like almost no money doing this, literally almost no money. But we're not like struggling for food, right? Like we're not waiting in line at food pantries. I don't have to worry about like losing my apartment. Like I'm an hourly wage worker, but I like, I get by. But, even I wouldn't feel comfortable asserting what it's like to be like, a person who's like in this like weird scene, even though I can't go to the fucking dentist because I don't have dental insurance. You know what I mean? I'm like, I have most of my needs met, and when I listen to people who are really in a fucking bind, but when I listen to people who, are actually fucking, no health insurance, no job, like relying on the limit. Those people want fucking urgency. Those people are scared. Those people need it now. Like there's no like kicking the can 2 years down the road, 20 years down the road to try and get Medicare for all. These people need urgency.
Especially when we literally have the president, the Senate, the Congress, it's in the power of Joe Biden and his administration right now to give everyone health care, let alone canceling student debt and taking cannabis off Schedule 1 and so many other things that we've talked about on this show. It's within his power. And that's why it's crazy that there's not more frustration from people like Seder, and why it's frankly disconnected and privileged to not be more angry and more frustrated at the fact that our government is so fucking corrupt and so beholden to the health insurance industry that it won't enact the simple, it won't give us what the rest of the developed world has. It's fucking crazy, especially in the pandemic when millions of people have lost their health insurance. It's fucking wild. And again, the Force the Vote was the closest we've come to a movement, a viable movement for achieving even a vote on healthcare. So like
documentation. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you can have all the beef you want with Jimmy Dore. And again, I'm not going to stay here all night and defend everything he said or done. I've had, my own criticisms in the past for sure, but that's irregardless of the fucking point. Like, it's just such a goddamn, you're just missing the ball. And it's so indicative too of his personal beef, overriding the actual policy merit of this
Oh
discussion.
yeah, it's clear from the beginning when he literally said that explicitly at the beginning of this interview. He's like, "Let me get down to the bottom of exactly what I think," and she was like, "Okay," and she was like, "I don't want to be associated with Jimmy Dore," and you're like,
"Yeah."
Okay,
she's like,
well,
at least
you want to be
you're honest
with maybe getting people some fucking healthcare. That
yeah, or at least come up with your own goddamn like way to do it, or at least move the fucking needle, man. Anyway, we'll listen to the last like minute of this, just so we can let the great Briahna Joy Gray say her piece and
drop some truth.
Yeah.
Care for all. That's almost a direct quote. So we were right that we couldn't even get credible that the Democratic Party was so moderate, so to the right, that we couldn't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all. That's almost a direct quote. So what Jimmy's trying to do is say, I don't care about AOC per se. I don't care about the squad per se. I'm invested in these individuals insofar as that they're advancing the interests of the progressive movement and are fighting tooth and nail for the policies that caused us to support them in the first place. And he is willing to become the antagonist in that by being the most ferocious attack dog to push them where they need to go. If AOC were to say, hey, this is my plan for Medicare for all and demonstrate a fighting spirit, there's no one in this world, I think, who would imagine that Jimmy Dore would just randomly keep antagonizing her for no reason. No, doesn't have a vendetta out against AOC. Whether or not I think that his approach is most useful is a different question. But he doesn't have a vendetta out against AOC because he hates her or something. It's because he simply wants her to conform with her own campaign promises.
Well, I thought it was a little amusing that towards the end, like Sam Seder just started to look like a dad whose daughter brought home a boy that he didn't approve of, just like looking like longingly. I've received that face before.
Yeah, and if you guys watch the rest of that interview, which I can pull up some more clips if we want to watch it. I know we have a lot of people in the watching right now. If we want to watch some more of this, I can. But I personally think that Briahna Joy Gray was the clear victor of this debate, the clear winner of this exchange. I mean, besides the fact that I agree with force the vote and that we advocated for it here, I just think that she kind of did make him look a little bit bad here in the way that she dismantled his talking points and kind of got to the root of the merit of the policy. Again, putting aside this beef,
getting like overlooking the shiny object politics.
Yeah. So, do you want me to pull up some more?
I think that lays it to rest, right? Does anybody else in the stream feel like that Sam Seder, they need to hear more of his perspective? Because I feel like ever since he gave away his hand completely when he said, I don't care about anything besides Jimmy Dore, right?
Oh, okay. There is one more clip I do want to play, guys, because this is one where I think that Sam Seder's I guess ignorance of the situation is really laid bare and a real KO from Briahna Joy Gray. So let's just listen to this real quick before we move on, if that's cool. Yeah. Again, I do want to, because like I just said, I think Briahna Joy Gray was really the victor of this exchange. And I think this clip really proves it more than anything. So let's just watch this real quick. I think it's pretty funny.
Finger wagging. Here we go.
But let's say Nancy Pelosi says, fine, don't vote for me. They lose the speakership, right? Because there's no one going to coalesce around. You're not going to get that 218 people to coalesce around another person. They're going to end up. It's going to end up being McCarthy. Because
that's just not true, Sam. That's just fundamentally not true.
Walk through this. I'm going to give you my scenario about this.
It's off the rails now. Nobody knows what's going on.
We're not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi. We're going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and if you got what was the 218 to 212 or something, right? What I can't remember.
I believe it was 216 to 212 with majority of 215 because if memory serves, 429 votes.
Okay,
cast requiring a majority of 215.
So you
Democrats
now need
had at the time, I believe about 219, 220.
The progressive holdouts. Let's say there's 10 of them. Okay, they vote for Hakeem Jeffries. It has to be less than that because the majority is not the majority of people who are voting. It's the majority of people who vote for a named candidate, right? You know.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, okay, so let's say Nancy Pelosi calls their bluff. Don't vote for me. And they vote for Hakeem Jeffries. It goes into, enough of only like 4 of them vote for Hakeem Jeffries so that there is no majority. They have to revote. Right. And then what happens? They have the same vote that they had before, or they switch to Pelosi, or
we can pause this because I to answer after Fracture's question in the comment. Why does anyone think Medicare for all getting voted down in a floor vote will be good rhetoric? Also, why does anybody believe that we can trust politicians voting on a bill they know won't pass? Okay, so one, I don't necessarily think that it's bad rhetoric per se, right? What I think the intent behind force the vote, and Gavin, if you want to articulate something different, but essentially the idea is so many politicians support Medicare for all, like in name only, right? But when the push comes to shove, they're not prepared to put their name next to it on a floor vote, right? Because they want to gain the popularity that being called a progressive has. Because let us remember, being called a progressive is popular, right? All of the candidates that said that they supported Medicare for all won re-election in just in November, right? So this is an incredibly powerful re-elective tool. Now we have to force people to put their money where their mouth is and document them on the floor saying, yes, I will support Medicare for all. So what we can say is, instead, the rhetoric is not, oh, Medicare for all didn't pass. The rhetoric is, fuck you. Why didn't you vote to give people health care in a pandemic? But Gavin, what's your stance?
Yeah, no, I think that's correct. And yeah, because on the bill before, we saw that had sponsors that then would not have turned around and vote for it. And again, God, what was I going to say? It could pass now because we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, the executive. It could pass. There's no reason it wouldn't necessarily pass. And, just because it didn't, then that would be even more reason to then turn around and primary those Democrats. This is the perfect time to draw a line in the sand.
Yeah, so certainly somebody like Joe Manchin is going to not vote for it, right? But what we have to do is turn around and primary his ass and be like, look at this unconscionable prick who didn't fucking vote for Medicare for all during a fucking pandemic.
Yeah. And again, I think this clip just really does kind of show his ignorance to the situation. Here, we'll finish it up real quick.
Maybe other people vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
So
But
let's.
It goes to a second ballot.
It goes to a second or third or fourth or
second round. Now you have 15 people who vote for Hakeem Jeffries, 215 who vote for McCarthy, and 205 who vote for Nancy Pelosi. What happens then, Virgil?
Wait, why would the memory serves McCarthy
So
got
these
212 votes? So you're not saying that number goes
No,
up?
I'm suggesting
That's
in
every
round two,
Republican.
in round two,
In
one
round
of two
two, nobody
things has
can
to happen.
nobody can marshal a majority, so it goes to round three.
No. You don't need you need a plurality of names.
That's not true.
It would
That is
require
not true.
Democrats would have to vote for Kevin McCarthy to be speaker, or a large number would have to abstain altogether.
Yes, or abstain. Under your scenario, Sam, you need a majority of the people voting for a name.
Okay, so let's say
not voting president, which means
Not voting
that if every single Democrat shows up and they vote for someone, then unless they have a majority within that caucus, I'll say it's not a majority, and this is again assuming that the Republicans voted as a block and they're a minority, and no Democrat is going to vote for McCarthy, obviously, then it's just going to keep going to successive ballots.
Right.
And this is not an unprecedented situation.
Right.
It's simply a situation we've not had in 100 years.
And importantly, this could go on for dozens of rounds, as it did in the historical precedent that Virgil is nodding to. And this is where we start to talk about media attention.
I actually have that clip pulled for today, so stick around on the fucking live stream and we'll get to that.
And I think that Briahna here really, I think she really brings it home here at the end, where she says, that goes to the movement and the media, the energy and the attention that you can bring to the movement. That's the whole fucking point of force the vote. And again, now that we have Joe Biden in there, we can actually do things. We can actually get this done. So why not at least go on the cable news, bring attention to the fact that, yes, even the Democratic leadership is against universal health care, single payer Medicare for all. Every other country has afforded their citizens during the time of a pandemic. It's outrageous to think that we would leave so many uninsured. Pretty basic fucking shit, if you ask me. Pretty basic stuff to go out and call your own party out on TV. If you, I mean, I can't feel comfortable associating myself with a party that doesn't want to give people healthcare, that doesn't think that healthcare is a human right that should be enshrined. Why would you as a sitting representative with healthcare not think it's okay to do that? Not think that
you just voted to give yourself $5 million more in fucking funding for your private healthcare, which also covers horseshit science like fucking chiropractic. No, I think it's a fucking scandal, and I think that Briahna Joy Gray really did lay the argument to rest. Really, brought it home there again, and just saying, AOC. Many members of the squad, they have immense popularity. They have immense influence in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, in a sense,
really needs the squad, to keep appealing to the youth generations, to the more disenfranchised populations of this country that are more and more so leaving the Democratic Party. And in some sense, because the Democratic Party is expelling them in favor of suburbanites and wealthy boomers and so on and so forth. But the squad are among their most important and key players as far as their branding, as far as appearing progressive. And, a lot hangs in the balance of the squad keeping up that illusion, the squad continuing to project that progressive energy and continue to not attack the Democratic Party. And as long as they don't, then the Democratic Party's off the hook, because a lot of people don't even realize that healthcare is something that we can have. They don't even realize that these basic human rights are within reach, that they're things that other developed countries have. Unfortunately, our propagandistic media is so intense in this country that it prevents people from understanding that. It prevents people from having that, knowledge. So someone like AOC could be such an effective messenger and going out there and saying, it's not just the Republicans, guys. It's not just the Republicans out there taking your healthcare that are preventing us from having a universal healthcare system like the rest of the country. No, it's actually Nancy Pelosi too. That woman I called Mama Bear not that long ago. Well, she's actually complicit too. And, me and Corey and Rashida, there's no reason we can't get together and use our power and combine voice and influence to go out there and, say that out loud, to call it out, to at least just, acknowledge reality. It's
Cody,
not that much to ask
I
from.
admit this on the stream, but essentially we've all recognized that Medicare for All would not have passed. What it would have done is it would have created an on the record of every single politician who genuinely did support Medicare for All, so that they could then be primaried and pointed to and saying, this person doesn't believe in giving you healthcare. So when all these fuckers try and say, oh, I'm a progressive, oh, I believe healthcare is a human right, and then they don't support Medicare for All, they can't hide behind that horseshit language anymore, which is what keeps getting them elected, right? So we saw every single person that supported nominally Medicare for All, right? There was never a floor vote on it, so all we could do is keep their word for it. What we're saying is now we can say, no, you fucking lied, you don't support this, and we can run a primary challenger against you who will put their money where their mouth is when push comes to shove. They will vote for this
And also, like Bree said, it creates more energy and momentum behind the cause in the first place. It gets the media to talk about the words Medicare for All again. It gets people to say, yeah, why are the squad members, why are the most progressive and popular members of the entire Democratic Party holding up Nancy Pelosi, who the media pretends is this queen, is this, great presence, this great godmother of the left or whatever, when we all know that's bullshit. Those of us on the actual left, those of us that are in that corporate media echo chamber. So again, it just brings so much attention to it, and it puts a spotlight on the people in power, on Joe Biden, namely, and Nancy Pelosi, namely, the people that actually have the ability to give us Medicare for All, to enact this legislation. There's no reason why we can't, call them out and single them out. And that's what, Force the Vote was about. That was what the strategy was about. And again, as I've said, it just comes off as so goddamn out of touch and so goddamn privileged to not at least acknowledge that desire to force this conversation. It should be hashtag force the conversation too, because that's really what it is too. Again, it's not like the result of this is necessarily, the institution of Medicare for All.
There's a reason they're afraid to have a floor vote on Medicare for All, guys. There's a reason they don't want to fucking do it.